Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to After Hours Trading. My name is Barbara Armstrong. I am a coach with Schwab, fresh back from Maui and delighted to be here. Mr. James Boyd covered this class for me last week, and man, he did an absolutely fantastic job. So today, this is a brand new class, and the first time I taught it, I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding of what we're going to be covering in this class. And so I want to spend some time talking about that today because I think it's really important, and this will be, not a totally evergreen, but a bit of an evergreen webcast in that you can go back and watch this anytime to get a sense of what this class is going to be about. We're actually going to rename it After Hours Trading and Analysis. So there will be some after hours trading in it, and there will be some analysis. So let's get through our important information so that we can get right down to business. I always like to start by thanking those who are joining us live. And it really helps bring this class to life and brings great energy to it. So I want to thank you for that. So to Rob and Lena and David and Wiley and Josh and Scott and High Speed, Low Drag. Some of these handles are great. And Will and Riceberg and Debbie and Sharon and the rest of the gang. Thank you all for being here. We also have the privilege of having Mike Fairborn in the chat. He's a friend and fellow coach and understands all of this stuff that we're talking about today. And so if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask. If I miss anything, I always go back at the end and look at all the comments so that if I've missed something this week, then I can address it in next week's class. And also know that if you're watching this in the archives, you too have a voice and you can type your comments in down below. And I do look at those every day, at least every work day. Another way for me to be able to communicate with you and you with me is through the land of X. So consider this your invitation to follow me there, Barb Armstrong CS. Just know that I will never reach out to you with a Bitcoin, a crypto deal, or private education for which there's a fee. If somebody does, they are an imposter. So please take a screenshot and forward it to me or type the handle into the chat in a class and I will get them shut down. I'm very protective of all of you guys. I want to make sure that nobody is taken advantage of. You're going to want to follow Mike Fairborn also, Mike Fairborn CS in the land of Twitter. Okay, so just know that everything that we discuss in this class is for education and information purposes only. None of it is to be construed as a recommendation on the part of Schwab or myself. Know that options carry a high level of risk and aren't suitable for all investors. We will not be placing an option trade today necessarily, but we will talk about options on a regular basis in upcoming classes. So I want you to be aware of that. We use the paperMoney software application on the thinkorswim desktop platform. It looks like, feels like, smells like real money, but it's not. So it is a great place to learn not only, how to use the platform, but, to make sure that you understand a trading strategy before you consider trading it in your live account. And know that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. So what are we going to do today? Nothing, because you're now seeing a blank screen. No, I did this on purpose. This wasn't a mistake because I want to talk about a couple of things that we're going to need this blank screen for. And one of them is, what this class is going to be all about. And so when we originally came up with this concept, can you tell I was posting stuff on Twitter? Okay, so let me just wipe that clean. And yeah, I'm going to come over here. And so this is our after hours trading. And let me start with a little bit of a story. So I met this guy many years ago, and he had a busy life. He had a full-time job, and so he couldn't really be looking at the market during market trading hours. And so we're going to add here the and analysis or something similar to this class title. But, and he also had a family. And so he had a pretty busy life going on. And, I have 3 kids myself. They are all now grown. They're married. They own their own homes. Like, they're off my payroll. But there was a decade or so where between 3 and about 9 p.m., I was driving in circles. The boys were in lacrosse, and there was dance, and there was swim team, and there was homework, and there was all the things. And this guy was the same way. So his time to look at the markets was after the kids got settled for the evening, and it was after 9 o'clock at night. And so how can you participate in the market when the only time you have to look at the market is after the market is closed? And so that is kind of one component to after hours trading. And so when we look at this, we are looking at doing an analysis and placing typically conditional orders, to enter the next trading day, or when that condition is met. Whoops. I thought it would roll for me, or when that condition is met. And often, these are going to not only be conditional order entries, but they're also going to include OCO orders with targets and exits. And although these could also be longer term trades, like, let's say you don't want to be a short-term trader like we do in the trading a smaller account class. So one section of these will be shorter term trades. And these might be trades that meet your goal of generating income or growing your account. These aren't necessarily longer term trades, so you might expect to be in these for days to weeks. And then there might also be some analysis where you have a longer term view. You still have the busy life, the busy household, the full-time job, and you're looking at the markets on the weekends or in the evening, and you want to place an order, but you want to place an order. Let's say you're looking at Tesla today, which was pulling back, and say, hey, if Tesla, if and when it starts to go up again, get me in. And you're going to put in a price. And then maybe, you're looking at the markets every day, but tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, when you get to sit down and look at the markets again, you might adjust that entry price. But you're not looking at things, during the trading day. So that's kind of one piece of it. And that's probably going to be, I'd say, a fat half of what we do here. Okay, so just to be clear. Then there's the whole active, let's call it active trading in the after hours market, which used to not be a thing unless you were trading futures, which traded different market hours. Okay, and so why might you do that? Well, you might want to do that, we might want to take advantage of an earnings announcement. Or a reaction to major news in the market. Like an election, major market event. And that could be like FOMC, minutes being announced, or a reaction to an FOMC meeting, or an anticipation of that. It could be, something happening somewhere in the world, like a big climate event, a big fire, like whatever. It could be, like I said, an election, some type of major world news. So, we may want to take advantage of that. Okay. So there are a number of reasons, or it could be personal. It could be you're on a flight in the morning. Or you're going to a retreat where cell phones and all technology is banned, or you're going on a vacation and you just want to unplug, but you don't want to miss the opportunity to get in on something. So these are all reasons we may want to trade in the after hours. Okay, so now, are there any questions about this so far? Okay. Nope. You guys, you're cool with all this? Because when I taught it the first time, that we did the first class in the new year, some people were going, hey, I thought you were going to talk about trading in the after hours. And so we're going to do some of both. Okay. So now I'm going to shake the Etch-a-Sketch. So if you wanted to capture this, I hope you've got your notes down. So here goes. Now I want to talk a bit about after hours trading. So what can we trade in the after hours? Well, we can trade a lot of things now, and a lot of that is fairly recent. So, and I'll show you how to see this. So what can we trade? So first of all, we can trade stocks. Okay. And we can trade some ETFs. But so stocks is a yes. Options, no. Okay, so no options trading. So if you have a smaller account, there aren't, you may say, well, this isn't appropriate for me because I'm starting with a smaller amount, so I want to focus on options trading. Well, then what might be of more interest to you is that, we're going to look at things and we're going to place a lot of conditional option orders that would fill during the regular trading day, which is the only time that you can trade options, which is from 9:30 Eastern until 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Now, what kind of stocks can we trade? Well, I checked today and I'll show you how to see this. So all stocks, and it's not, this isn't exclusive, but if you are part of the Dow Jones, the Dow 30, if you are part of the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P 500, there is the option to trade those stocks 5 days a week, 24 hours a day. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay? So, for example, when I'm skiing with my son, I kind of like the blue groomers. He likes to deke in and out of the trees and he's going off these jumps. Could I do those jumps? Yes. Should I? Not necessarily. Okay, like, and what do I mean? Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Well, just because something's listed on the Dow 30 or the S&P 500 doesn't mean that it has a lot of trading volume in the after hours. So, there are some things that we have to take into consideration. So, first of all, we want to make sure we understand liquidity. So if you are part of the Mag 7, Apple, Tesla, Meta, the really big boys that are heavily traded, NVIDIA, chances are there's going to be a certain amount of liquidity, not the same amount that there is during the day, but enough that if you place a trade, it might fill. The bid-ask spread might just be too wide on some stocks. And how do you define width? Well, James did a fantastic job on the class last week. If you haven't watched it, you should. I will put a link into the show notes and at the end of this webcast on the recording. But, if your bid-ask spread is, you might say you want your bid-ask spread to be less than 25 cents, or if you put a dollar sign, to meet your rules. You might say, those are my rules. And if the bid-ask spread is too wide, you might not be willing to pay that price. So liquidity is going to be lower in the after hours on all stocks, pretty much, unless there's a big earnings announcement. There could be a bit of a spike. Oops, sorry. But liquidity is generally lower. And because, liquidity is lower, that can lead to more, uncertain pricing. We could call it that. The other thing is that you are limited as to the type of orders you can place. So I spent an inordinate amount of time with the trade desk today. So you can place a limit order only. So that means no market orders. Also, no OCO orders, which means you cannot put in an order that has a target and a stop. There's no stop limit orders. You can't put in a stop limit order either. So it's a limit order, period. And if you want to put in an order with a limit order exit, you can do that. But you can't put in an OCO with a target and an exit. Okay? No OCO orders. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the basics. Now, James talked about this last week, and after hours is kind of this vast expanse of time. So a regular day order, let's just go over this. That is filled potentially between 9:30 and then 4 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, and then there are pre-market orders. So what is a pre-market? Well, pre-market is from 7 a.m. to 9:25 a.m. That is what a pre-market order is. And then there are after hours, and that is from 4, I think it's actually 4:05 to 8 p.m. And all of these are Eastern time. So, and then you'll see when we get to our thinkorswim platform, that there's something called extended hours. And extended hours is equal to both the pre-market and the after hours. Okay. And then we have overnight, which is, and I'll show you where to see this, which is extended hours of trading, extended trading. Okay. And that goes, from 4 o'clock until 9:25 or 4:05 to 9:25 the next day. Okay. Okay. So let's go out and look at one, where can you see some of this information? And then, how might we choose to trade that? All right. So let's go out to, well, let me start my shaking my Etch-a-Sketch again. We're going to clear this. There we go. Okay. 4 is PM. Yep. So for more information on this, if you come to, and I'll put this into the chat, And James did this last week, showed you guys where all of this was if you were there. So it's international.schwab.com/content/stock-order-types and conditions. And so it kind of goes over a lot of this information, okay, on different order types and what's allowed when. There's also a lot of information on the Schwab site on, how you define different order types. You can also come to thinkorswim and come to the education tab. And we're going to go to the Learning Center and then refresh. This isn't coming up. I wonder if it's because of where I am here. That's interesting. If you go to the Learning Center and type in orders. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so there's a lot of information here on stocks and on trading, but if we come to, here we go, the Learning Center, and we type in orders, it will bring in, it will bring up a lot of information on different order types. So GTC plus extended order, GTC, etc. So, it's saying GTC plus extended orders valid for all sessions Sunday through Friday until filled. Okay. Okay. So we're going to come and look at a particular stock now. So if we come and we look at, let's say we look at Palantir. Let's look at Palantir. So Palantir kind of pulled back along with the rest of the market. But, if we look at the last year for this stock, and, we can pretend it's 9 o'clock at night, and we come to show price as a percentage, we can see that this stock has really, moved pretty dramatically from $16 up to 84. It's up over 300%. Okay. And so if we look at this and say, well, I want to look at a shorter term time frame, and I want to see, can we trade this in the after hours? Well, if we come to the trade tab, you'll see right here, it says EXTO eligible. And so that means we can trade it in the after hours. Also, if you have a watch list, and I've brought up the Dow, and you can see beside each ticker symbol, there are these little buttons. So red means an earnings call is coming up. And so if I link my chart, to the trade tab and to the chart, if I come to Chevron and we add, I can't see it, but I don't have any extension here. So if I come here to my sprocket and I come to the time axis and say, I want 30 bars to the right. If I come out here, I can now see, if I hover over this, when earnings is. It's January 31st. We can also just hover over it here and we'll see when earnings is. But we can see that Chevron is traded 24/5. In fact, anything that has a gold button is traded 24/5. So we can see Home Depot doesn't have earnings coming up, but it trades 24/5. Walmart's already, come with earnings. So is Nike, but every single one of these is available to trade 24/5. And this is how I double checked that these were all, if we come to the NASDAQ 100, available to trade 24/5, should you desire to do so. But again, you can only trade the stock. You cannot do an options trade. So as you scroll down, you can see whether earnings is coming or not. Every one of these has at least one dot, the 24/5 dot. And we could bring up the S&P 500 just so that I don't give you guys a whiplash. We'll bring up the S&P 100 and we can see that, Meta, Triple M, like all of these stocks, and when is earnings? January 21st. And so, if you're looking at a stock like 3M and you're thinking, well, hey, it has a tendency to gap on earnings. But, in the last year, it gapped down, gapped up, big gap up, gap down. Well, this one didn't gap, it just moved down. So if you're putting in an order that you want to give yourself the possibility of it filling in the after hours, just know that you're either putting in, you're putting in a target. Okay. And so I thought today we could use Netflix as an example. Now, why did I choose Netflix? Well, if we come to the live news on Netflix, and I came out and I had a look. So, Loop Capital maintains a hold. So this was announced today. They lowered their price target by, I think it was $25 a share. But if I come down here, here we have an analyst set the price target at 1,000. It closed today at 842. Barclays raised their price target to 715. Piper Sandler raised their price target to 950. BMO Capital raised their price target to 1,000 from 825. You can see there's kind of a wide range. So can they all be right? No. But TD Cowen, adjust their price target to 1,000 from 835. Guggenheim 950 to 825. So when I look at all of these, one has lowered their price target. Everyone else is moving it up. Even this one that is way, lower than all the others raised it substantially from where it was. So if we look at this and say, hey, if this gaps up on earnings on the 21st, I kind of hate to miss it. But maybe what I want to do is a swing trade. And this account has $9 million in it. Now, it's pretty easy to adjust. This doesn't look like a paperMoney account, but it actually is. One thing that you may notice, and you may be saying to yourself, like, hey, I went to the trade tab like Barb did, and it doesn't say EXTO eligible. If you're in paperMoney, it won't. And I'm not sure if that's something that will be added to the paperMoney portfolio, so to speak. But right now, this only shows up if you're in a live, or this is a simulated live account. Okay. And I would not normally have a $9 million account. It's just, this is the way this account seems to want to be. So we're going to roll with it. But if I wanted to add, and even if you had $1 million account and you said, hey, I'm okay. And you don't have to buy 100 shares of something. We could buy 10 shares, which would be an $8,000 position. So, if you had a $100,000 account, that would be less than 10% of your portfolio. Now, some might say, I don't want any one position to be more than 5% of my portfolio, in which case, if we're pretending this is $1 million instead of 9,000,001, we might say, well, then that means I don't want any one position to be more than 50,000. So if I change my watch list to a calculator and say, okay, this is 50,000 divided by 842. So I could buy 59 shares. Like, we could round down and make it 50. And I don't need the option chain open because we're not considering trading options. But let's say I want to put in this target of 941. So I'm going to write that down. That's my target. And one other thing that I may want to check is how heavily is this traded? Well, it traded, this is an $800 stock, my friends. And yeah, traded 3.5 million shares. Okay. 3.5 million shares today. So it's pretty heavily traded. How about in the after hours? Well, if we come to our chart, we can change our time frame to 2 days, 30 minutes. And I've got volume down here. So let's go to 2 days, 30 minutes. So you'll see anything that is dark, that's the after hours. And so we can see that there is volume traded. So, especially in this pre-market here, in that half hour, we had, 9,396 shares traded. But when the market opened in that first half hour, 208,000. In the last half hour, 606,000. So the difference between, in the liquidity and how many shares are being traded, pretty dramatic. In this first half hour after the market closed, 6,934 contracts. So, we can see this. Now, if you don't have this showing up on your chart, okay, if you come to your sprocket, and I think we go to equities. Yeah, and if this box isn't checked, show extended hours trading session, you can check that box. Okay, so the market has closed and it looks like Netflix is falling in the after hours so far. But what if we looked at this and we said, okay, we want to put in a limit order. We only want to buy, if it goes above this 842.37, which is today's closing price. Or if we look at this candle and say, what was our high today? It was 851. Okay. Yeah, I think there is somebody's asking about the survey, and there is a survey in the chat today. And so, I would love it if you guys would fill that out. There are 2 questions. One was, I hated it, and I'm never coming back. The other one is, I loved it, and I'm going to become a regular, and then everything in between. And then let me know what you would like to see in this class. What you liked, what you'd like to see more of or less of. We're at the front end of this series, and it's a brand new class for all of us. But yeah, so I just reposted that. So if we come back, and if some people find this a little bit much, if we come in here to our 3-month chart again, we could look at today's and say, hey, given this goes up above today's high of, today's high 868.98, I'd like to enter the trade. And so we're going to come in here and we're going to right click. We are going to buy, and we're going to make this a limit order. And here it's saying, here's our ask price is 838. Our bid price is 837.45. Now this is an $800 stock. And so some might say, well, hey, this is, about $1.50 bid-ask spread. And I thought you wanted the bid-ask spread to be less than 25 cents. When you're looking at a stock, if it was a $50 stock, 25 cents is a reasonable number. Some might say, hey, if I look at this, $1.50 as a percentage is pretty minuscule. And so I'm okay with that. But I want to put in a limit order, at this, was it 860? Did I write that? Yeah, 868.93. and I want to exit. And so I've made this first trigger sequence, and we're going to create an opposite order. And I want to make this $9.41. And, so that if the order goes above, and we're going to make this a buy stop. So we only want to get in if this goes above 868.93, and we're making this a day order. So this would fill tomorrow. If it goes above 868.93, we'll get in. And then given we get in, if at any time, including over earnings, if we're confident about what the analysts are saying and what we think will happen over earnings, if it hits even in the extended hours, we would like to sell at that previous high. But we only want to get in, and this is during the regular day, because if I try and put this in as an extended, it'll say, yeah, nice try, Barb. Remember, you can only do a limit order. You're trying to cheat the system. Or, another way to put in that same order is just to call it a market order. And then you come over here to your sprocket and say, I only want to enter this trade if Netflix goes above 868.93. And, there's, we all have our different ways that we like to do things. And the beauty of thinkorswim is you can put the same thing in often multiple different ways. And so that's two ways to put in that order. But if you only want it to enter, if it goes above a certain price, you want to put a condition in, then that has to fill during the regular market hours. Okay. Now, we didn't want to buy 100 shares, did we? Did we say 50? We're going to make it 50. Now, this order is a day order, and the market has already closed today. So if it doesn't fill tomorrow, this will go away. This order will expire. Could we make it good till cancel to say, hey, when it goes above, we're okay with this? We could. So we could make it good till canceled, and we don't get any red notice saying, hey, you can't do that. But the reality is, if it pulls back again tomorrow, we may want to change the order. But you do have the option of making it good till canceled. Now, what does good till canceled even mean? Or good till canceled extended? I did look that up today, and it's 180 days. And so it's important to know. So good till canceled, a good till canceled order will stay in the system if it's not triggered for up to 180 days. But then it goes away. And I had the woman was lovely, but I had the privilege of meeting this woman who had bought a stock, and she had put a stock market order on it, and the stock had really tanked. And she had thought, well, I don't have to worry about it because I had put a stop in on the order, but the stop had expired. They only last basically 6 months, whether it's GTC or GTC extended. But if you're managing your portfolio as a stock moves up, you might you might well move that stop up. That's going to be part of your routine and part of your trade management, right? Right. So, okay, so we're going to make this a day order, and we'll see if it gets filled tomorrow. And if not, we'll come back and we'll look at this again. And we're going to send it in. Okay, so Josh is saying at the beginning of the class, you mentioned trading stocks. What about futures? This class will not focus on futures. There is a futures class on Thursday mornings. It is taught by Ben Watson. I think it's Thursday mornings. And actually, if you want to see the schedule, that's kind of a nice segue because we now, believe it or not, have to wrap up. And you know, I spent a lot of time talking about what we're going to be doing in this class. Next week, we're going to really focus more on the doing of it. Dale is asking, am I going to teach any, extended hours? We'll probably cover all of that. Absolutely. So Schwab coaching, if you want to see, the schedule, and I know that Ben Watson is teaching this, so I'm going to come here to Ben, and it will say, okay, he teaches trading index options on Thursday or on Wednesdays, trading futures on Thursday mornings. Now, so that's Thursday mornings at 9:30 Eastern. And then he does a weekly wrap up at 4 p.m. on Fridays. And Ben does, a lot of live events. In fact, he does all of our live events. And if you haven't been to a live event, I encourage you to check it out. I loved attending them as a client. I love attending them as a coach. But it was a chance for me when my house was crazy full of teenagers and all of that to go somewhere and link arms with other people who wanted to figure this stuff out just like I did. And I've made friends that I have to this day, and I learned a tremendous amount. It's amazing when you can just focus on one thing all day long. The next one is in Seattle on January 30th. It is a 2-day workshop, first day technical analysis, second day options. Then we're going to Atlanta. I am going to be there. So if you'd like to meet me in person, please come. I would love to get to spend a bit of time with you. Technical analysis again on day 1, options day 2. We've got stuff scheduled out all year. We've got an advanced option workshop. I don't know if registration isn't open yet, but if you're interested in that, that'll be Chicago. So guys, thank you for humoring me today. Appreciate your patience as we set the expectations for what this class is going to be all about. Bridget is saying Seattle, the registration is closed. It is a smaller venue. So, but I will say this, if you live in Seattle and you show up, we will find a seat for you. Okay, I can guarantee you that. And we, we'll have the coffee on, we'll have breakfast for you, we'll have lunch for you. If Schwab does something, it's always a class act, and there's no charge to attend. So cool beans. Okay, so as we wrap up, you want to hit the like button. It helps move this up in the algorithm so more people can find this content. It also lets Mike and I know that you found this valuable. Second thing, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that already. What it does is it just gives you access to all the playlists. And I wanted to point this out too. And if you guys could do me and yourselves a favor, I recorded this power of compounding, how $5 a day invested over time can grow. And my example in this was that if you started at 20 and gave it 47 years to grow, that $5 a day, if you invested half in an index that tracked the S&P and the other half in an index or something that tracked the NASDAQ, you'd have around $4 million. So I encourage you to check this out. Put a comment in once you've watched it. Let me know what you thought, because I'd like to get a lot of eyes on this. I'm excited about getting that message out. I wish I had seen that when I was 20, I can tell you that. So share it with your friends, your neighbors, your kids, your parents. If if you're in your 20s, that'd be great. So, but yeah, if you subscribe to the channel, then you'll have access to, it's easy to find all of this stuff, and there's no charge for that either. Follow us on X. That's a wrap. This is the end of our live webcast day. Thanks to Mike for joining us, the people behind the scenes for bringing this class to life, and to all of you for showing up for your future self. I'm sure that person and your whole family will appreciate it. Have a great evening, everyone. We'll see you in a webcast coming up soon. Take care.